Okay, so we're live. All right. How's everybody doing, guys? We're here in Raleigh today from the Convention of States, right? There you go. The Freedom Rally from the Convention of States. Come over here, Jamie. Come over here. Okay, we got Jaime. There you go. Jaime is actually from Alabama. All right, right on. There you go. One of our most loyal volunteers there in Alamus County. Anyway, we're here. Like I told you, we're here live. I didn't want you guys to miss a moment on this convention, right? On this rally. I want you to check out the speakers, listen to them, take your notes, do your research. But these are the kind of things that we need to know. Every single fact that we need to know, we need to research it. We need to know our things, okay? And this is one of them. So today I have the help from Mamie Brooks and Anthony Brooks. They came straight from Alamus County to help me out to transmit to go live. At the same time, guys, I'm collecting names and information for people that would like to help with the Four Vamos operation, which is to outreach the Hispanic voters. So if you're watching this video and you're interested in being part of the Vamos operation, just just let me know in your comments, okay? We'll check you guys out later. I'm gonna be around walking and talking to people, getting their information so we can go ahead and outreach the Hispanic voters and every single voter out there, okay? I'm talking about Alamus County, Orange County, Guilford County, Wake County. If I'm leaving any of the counties out there, remember, it's 100 counties, all right? So after this, we're actually heading down to Charlotte, and we're gonna do the same. Okay, we're gonna be doing the same. We're gonna be connecting with folks. We're gonna be talking to people. We're gonna be outreaching and making them part of our team, all right? Just remember, guys, the Republican and the conservative way is the way to go. Okay, we are fighting this fight from the right side. Okay, therefore we cannot quit. We cannot let this happen in the United States of America. We cannot lose this country by any means necessary. Okay, guys, our children are first. You all take care. Watch the like I said, pay attention to the speakers. Take your notes. Ask your questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as we're done. All right.
Alan West.
There you go. Alan West actually used to be Alan West, Lieutenant Colonel. Alan West
flew from Turkey.
He used to live in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. We used to go to the same church. All right. So maybe I'll talk to him in a minute. Okay. We used to be really good friends. Maybe he remembers me. Maybe he doesn't. But anyway, he used to be a congressman in Florida.
Oh yeah.
So and we have Jonathan Uzcategui. We got some other amazing speakers. Guys, check it out, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right. You all take care. Maybe you're gonna be walking around, and if people have questions, you can ask questions to people too. We have a llama back here. Anyway, watch out with that.
Yeah, I got one.
You can get anything closer to the sun.
Underneath the bottom. Want to go over?
I'm so grateful my mother's talking. I'm trying to help her live on her Facebook. And so again, I'm so grateful you come from so many places. I also want to ask anyone in the audience who serves in any official COS volunteer role, tell patriots, Mr. Captain, follow-up team member, anything. Okay, come up here. Just come stand right here. Because I want the world that's here to see how many people are involved in this effort. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to deal with a few logistical issues while these people are coming up. And one of the logistical issues I want to deal with is that our speakers, I think, are standing back there. They are armed with Sharpies in their hands, and they are happy to autograph your COS T-shirt. You have to have a COS T-shirt to get it autographed, and unfortunately, many of you all are wearing them when we gave them away last year. Economics have changed. People that actually helped us with that last year are donating to campaigns because we want to make sure the right people win in the upcoming election. So we're collecting just $5, unless you can give more, for the T-shirts, and we have plenty for people to buy at that table back there. Also over there, if you haven't seen him yet, is the Liberty Llama. Who's seen the Liberty Llama? If you haven't had your picture taken with the Liberty Llama, you need to have your picture taken with the Liberty Llama. Greg Hall is the owner of Repacheep, and he has been involved with COS since it started in North Carolina. Okay? So I know there are more volunteers here than this, but I just want you to express your gratitude. I try to do it a lot to all of these people because they are what make things happen here in North Carolina. For those of you who do not know, we meet with a group of people called our district captains. They're the most important people here in North Carolina because they are the people who build the local grassroots and build relationships with the legislators. If you're interested, at the end of this day, I'm going to talk to you how you can get involved with COS and maybe some other things here in North Carolina. And we meet with them on the second and fourth Monday of every month. We also meet with anyone who is any kind of volunteer role or has expressed an interest in COS on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, both of which are at 8 o'clock. We'd love for you to join those calls. We do our best. We do some training from time to time, and we do our best to keep you updated on everything that's going on, not only locally, but nationally. Okay. So we hope you enjoy these amazing speakers we have. We've got a few other things we're going to share with you. Y'all can all go sit down if you'd like. Thank you again for everything you do. Again, we've got a packed agenda, so I got to be sure I keep us on track. The most important thing that I would like to have happen coming out of today is that every person in this room and on this mall, if you're not actively involved in something, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, election integrity, medical freedom, convention of states, please get involved. That is one of the foundational things that you'll learn, quite frankly, if you take biblical citizenship, which I haven't taken yet, but you're going to hear about that from one of our speakers today. What I hope is that you leave here today with the motivation to step into something that you can do to be active. Okay? I just want to make one last comment in terms of my role here. I was asked to get more involved and become the state director with COS almost 2.5 years ago. And when I did that, I have to say I deliberated and I prayed on it, and God kind of helped me see it was something I should do because I am by profession trained for 20 years as a leadership consultant. And in those 20 years, where I worked for 21 years in banking leading people, in the 20 years I've learned about leadership, I didn't lead anybody. So this gave me an opportunity to do it. What I didn't know at the time is that, and my daughter knows this, other than raising the most amazing person in my life, who is my daughter, this has been the most rewarding and exciting, and rewarding is the word. I've never had an experience like this. I express gratitude for it almost every day, because having an opportunity to lead the people that are a part of this and be involved in this movement is truly one of the most important things I feel like I've ever done. So we're going to jump right into it with John Moore. He is a fabulous regional captain in the Charlotte area of North Carolina, and he's going to open us up in prayer.
Such a time as this. This is indeed a time that tries men's souls. I'm going to share some information from a presentation from Michelle Barkman. Pray it out. Heavenly Father, we humbly ask that in the battleground states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada, please silence every lying tongue and convict the hearts of those who devise wicked plans intend to invalidate and nullify the express will of the voters. Stop those who would be quick to rush into evil, expose and silence every false witness who utter lies and operates in deceit. All the efforts of every person who attempts to stir conflict within our community. Prayer point number 2. Expose all wickedness intended to steal, kill, and destroy in these battleground states. Heavenly Father, we humbly ask that in the battleground states, you know what lies in darkness. Light dwells with you, Lord God, in Daniel 2:22. Please bring to light and expose every lie, deceit, deception, misrepresentation, and illegal act intended to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. The thief cometh not, but to steal, kill 1 million babies a year, and destroy. Heavenly Father, please frustrate the plotting of the shrewd so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise or attain success. May no weapon formed intended to kill, steal, and destroy the authentic, accurate vote count and express wills of people in the battleground states. Prayer point number 4. Frustrate and follow the plans of those who attempt to sabotage each state's election. Heavenly Father, please capture the wise by their own shrewdness and quickly thaw the advice of the cunning. Job 5:12, whose intention it is to sabotage and subvert state and federal election law and the express will of the people in the various battleground states. Hold them guilty, O Lord, by their own devices. Let them fail. Prayer point number 5, Psalms 5. Heavenly Father, give our leaders, O Lord, consider our leaders' groanings. Heed the sound of their cry for help. For you are the King and his God. For to you does he praise. In the morning, O Lord, you will hear his voice. In the morning, you will order his prayer to you and eagerly watch. For you are not a God who takes pleasure in wickedness. No evil dwells with you. The boastful shall not stand before you. Your eyes, you hate all those who do iniquity. Destroy those who speak falsehood. You abhor the man of bloodshed and deceit. But as for our leaders, by your abundant loving kindness, we will enter your house. At your holy temple, we will bow in reverence for you, Lord. Please lead our leaders in your righteousness because of their foes. Make their way straight before him. There is nothing reliable in what they say. Their throat is an open grave. They flutter with their tongue. Hold them guilty, O Lord, by their own devices. Father God, today in a prophetic, I say that this country is not lost. Don't lose hope. Don't give up. Don't quit. God never quit on us. We're not going to quit on him. He is the Lord God. He is the Almighty God. He's the one that we follow. We will not turn to the left nor right. Father God, we thank you for being mindful of us, for knowing us, for having fellowship with us, that we can boldly take our petitions to you in prayer, Lord God. boldly take our petitions to you. This nation, under God, liberty, justice for all. We thank you for founding such a great nation that we will not turn this over to satanic forces. We will not give way to the adversary. We will not be deceived by the lies that are permeating from all kinds of sources. Only your voice will we listen to. Only your voice will we hearken to. The things we hear today will provide us with some guidance, provide us with inspiration, provide us with direction as far as where we're to go, what we're to do, how we're to do it, when we're to do it. Wherever you say go, Lord God, I go. Whatever you say do, Lord God, I do. And my fellow patriots agree. These things we pray in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, John. If you all are struggling to hear, I think one of our speakers may not be working. We've had a little trouble with the electrical here, so just be patient. These guys are working hard to get all that resolved. So now I want to introduce U.S. Navy retired, Air Force. I'm sorry, Air Force. Rob Johnson, and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
First of all, it wouldn't be me if I came here and I didn't have something to say, because to see your smiling faces out here today, to understand that y'all are the ones that are doing the work, okay? We're only up here helping to provide some guidance. We know where the work comes from. It's from you. There's people that came here from all over this state today. I want to hear you. Who's from the mountain region? Piedmont. Charlotte, Capital, Roanoke, Upper Coastal, Lower Coastal, Mid-Coastal. There we go. Okay. One of the things we need to recognize, and some of these things that these people did this past year, because I know you all are working real hard, and there's some people that really did some exceptional things. And I want you to think about this for a moment. We're here for a reason. We're talking about self-governance. Self-governance is a lot of power, and with a lot of power comes great responsibility. Who is going to be the next group of leaders to step up and fill these halls to make sure self-governance takes place? It's going to be you. Start looking in the mirror, okay? We've got to start looking at ourselves, and we've got to understand some of the things that need to get done, and the only one that's going to do it is you. I got to recognize in our county this year, I don't know about y'all, but how many people ran for office for the first time this year are in this audience today? Yeah. First time ever. Okay, fantastic. You deserve recognition. I got to give a shout out in Onslow County. Of the 7 county leadership positions that were up in the primary, Convention of State supporters took 4 of them. We've got a guy down here that started his own homeschool academy. Rick Green, you'd be glad to know that they teach biblical citizenship for history and civics. With that note, I got to bring these guys in here. We've got a couple of students here from the Academy of Conservative Learning, and they're going to help me with this Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, step right up here, guys. One thing I want you to recognize when we do this Pledge of Allegiance, because you got to recognize the part that you take part in this. This is important because it's just as much your responsibility to help fix this nation as anybody else. So when we get to the part where we say, I want each one of you to own it. I want you to state your name as we do this pledge. Are we ready for this? I, Rob Johnson, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, And beside in the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God from America, our home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Okay, so Joseph, if you can come up here. We want to, again, a few housekeeping things. There is water over in this corner. There's water over in that corner. There are 3 food trucks in the loading area over here. We want you to support them. These food trucks are kind enough to not charge minimums because they normally do. So please support them and have your lunch over there today. There's one that serves nothing but ice cream and shaved ice. That's what I'm having for lunch. I think, have I missed any logistical things? Anybody got anything? Okay, then I'm going to, you want to use that? Okay, this gentleman, how many people have ever been on one of our meetings, Monday nights or Tuesday nights, when you hear a 1776 moment? Those of you who have not are in for an enormous treat. Joseph Holio worked with us as a district captain, as regional captain. Lots going on in his life. He's taken a short hiatus, so he'll be back. But he is he's just a great historian. And it's just because you love history, right? It's not, you're an engineer by trade, just because he loves history. So he is going to share something today that's going to mean something to you today.
Thank you, Joy. Everybody hear me? Today, I want to tell you, my message for you is not to fear the refiner's fire. I'll tell you what I mean by that. A refiner's fire, a metallurgist puts an intense heat on a metal, melts that metal so that the impurities will float to the top. And then he scrapes off those impurities and he throws them away. It's what they call dross. And that pure metal that remains is highly valued and extremely important. Now, why do I talk about a refiner's fire? Well, there's a writer, a contemporary writer, that wrote something that's going around as a phrase, and I want to bring it up. He says, hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. And weak men make hard times. And you see that circle in life. If you had to pick one, which one would you pick for the time in which we live? Would you say these are hard times? I would say so. What does that mean? That means the ones who came before, the leadership that you have been enduring are weak. Would you say your leadership in Washington is weak right now? Absolutely. Weak men bring hard times bring strong men come out of that. I want to tell you about one of those times. We're going to go back to 1776. I'd love to go back to July, because then I can talk about declaration. But that's not today. Today I'm going to take you to the last week of 1776, December 25th. Big Christmas Day. George Washington and the Continental Army have had a really hard time. They've had their butts kicked all through New York, Long Island, Manhattan, New York proper, all the way down into New Jersey. And now they are at the Delaware River. And it's not a good tactic to have the Delaware River behind you and your enemy in front of you pressing toward you. Because if you try to cross that river, you're exposed. And it's much easier for them to annihilate you. It would be much better to be on the other side of that river, in which case, if they try to cross the river, you have the advantage on them. All of the boats from the farms and people who were along the river, and he took his army across the Delaware, and they were sent on that side. Now, the English were happy to do that. It's what they call winter quarters. See, it's hard to fight a battle in the wintertime. It's cold, it's miserable, you have a hard time getting ready. So they're happy to just have their winter quarters on the New Jersey side. And George Washington's over there on the Pennsylvania side, but he's got a serious problem. He's got more than one. One of them is they have inadequate everything. They have inadequate food. They don't have enough clothing. They don't even have shoes on their feet. The number of his army is only about 6,000 at that point. And he's got to do something because in 5 days, on January 1, a lot of them, their time is up in the army and they're going to go back home. Morale is extremely low, and if he doesn't do something, he won't have an army to fight in the battle. So he decides what he's going to do is on the other side of the Delaware, Trenton, New Jersey, and it is occupied by a British force. It's actually Hessians, which are Germans. They're mercenaries for the British Army. And they're there, and he's thinking, if I can get across there, if I can take one, that'll give my men a big morale boost, and they need it. But also, there might be provisions there. There might be ammunition there, and things that I can really use right now because I don't have enough. So that's his plan. He's going to cross the Delaware. He's going to take Trenton and get those things that he needs. Problem is, when they attempted that, not only was there blocks of ice floating down the Delaware River, but there was a freezing rain. These men don't have boats. Are you going to put your men in a boat in the rain that's turning to ice on that boat to get them across to go fight the battle? Well, that's what he did. He had 6,000 men. He divided them up into three, 2,000, 2,400 in each group. The reason was because if they didn't make it across, so at least there would be someone to fight that battle. The others, they could fight if they needed to in the training, and that would be an advantage too. So that he's getting ready to do this. This is December 25th. They leave the night of December 25th, and they go to Trenton December 26th. Before he leaves, he goes up to a group of men that I'm about to talk about. These are the heroes of this battle. And he says to their leader, this guy named John Glover, he says, I need to get these boats across the Delaware, and that's going to be a tough job. Can you do it? And John Glover looks at George Washington and says, my boys will get you across the river. Now there were three groups. There's only one group that made it across that river, and it was the group of those men. They were relatively unknown until Patrick wrote the book. He called them the Indispensables. Get the book, it's worth reading. These guys who lived in what's called Marblehead, Massachusetts. They were fishers. They fished an area up in Nova Scotia, it's called the Grand Banks. There's always bad. There's always rough seas. These fishermen went out for fishing season. It was likely that some of them were not going to return. That's how bad fishing in the Grand Banks was. They were after cod. So these men are now with George Washington. We will get you across the Delaware. The only group that did, it took them 3 hours longer than they expected. They got across the Delaware ready to marched into Trenton. It was already 8 o'clock in the morning. It was probably 10 or 11 by the time they got there. George Washington thought he had the element of surprise. George Washington was wrong. There were spies in George Washington's camp, and they had told the British that George Washington would be coming. They just didn't know when. There's a guy in Trenton, the commander of the Hessians that were there. His name was Raleigh. He was a good commander. He knew what he was doing, and he had his men on high alert. Now think about it. You've got a decimated, inadequate ammunition, inadequate clothing, and they're fighting their way across an ice. Fight the enemy that knows you are coming. He's ready for you. What do you think is going to happen to you? And yet, when George Washington gets there, he wipes them out. 22 Hessians died dead, 94 wounded, 1,000 of them surrendered, about 400 of them escaped. That's how that victory was for George Washington. How is that possible? I'll tell you how it's possible. There was a militia from New Jersey. George Washington knew nothing about that. The commander's name was Stevens. He had about 200 militiamen. They decided they were going to go fight Trenton. And they did that December 25th. So now you've got this Raleigh, this Hessian commander, waiting for George Washington's Continental Army. Guess what comes over? 200 people shooting at you. He thinks it's George Washington's army. He repels them. He thinks the job is done. He takes his men on fire. They're not ready for George Washington when he comes in. And he comes in, and they win that victory. Who do you think says that victory? Stevens or God? Let me tell you, it was God. God was working in that instant in two different ways. He decided to get a militia out of New Jersey to go pick them up, so they wouldn't be ready. And he put fishermen from Marblehead, Massachusetts, on a boat so that they could get around that ice. That's now, why am I telling you this? Unknown, 200 unknown militia fought a war that George Washington never knew was coming. Marblehead fishermen did something in a boat that changed history. Those men are no different than the people I'm looking at right now. You are what God wants you to be. And that doesn't mean it's easy. Remember, it's a refiner's fire. But just like hard times bring strong men, if these are hard times, you are strong and strong. Just like those fishermen in Marblehead, you are going to change the course of history. And the reason you're going to do it, there are legislators in that building who do not want to put H.R. 233 and their vote. They don't want to do it because they don't want to expose the ones who aren't going to vote for it, because they know that you have the power to get them out of office. Are you going to let them stand behind their rules and regulations, or are you going to go in and say, you need to pass this, and you will pass it this session, and you will do it because we ask you to do it. We're not going to be mean. We're not going to be belligerent, but we are going to be persistent. We are going to change the course of history, because without it, like George Washington, our country is lost.
Okay, for those of you all that are involved in organizing this thing, we are behind schedule a little bit. We're rearranging this a little bit because we are running the first street. This gentleman right here, I have a note. So I'm just going to say, I know he says he calls himself an ordinary man. I can't remember the second part of it. With an extraordinary God. Why can I not remember that? Okay, there in his home, he is a regular. You can watch him every day at 4 o'clock on Facebook and Steve has a radio show. I am already hooked. I'll be there every day. If I'm in my car and it's 105.7. In his view, there are no sacred cows. Yay! And it's all about truth and grace. So I'm really excited. And I'm going to let him introduce our
All right, how's everybody doing?
It sounds like there's a bunch of Christians here today. It makes me a little nervous. This guy's gonna start talking about Jesus and stuff.
Be careful. Anyway, it's nice to see you. By the way, thank the Lord for all of you
Guys, you're all activists. Now, what you need to do is create more activists. You need to procreate.
create other activists, especially young people. What Joey didn't mention is for the last 10 years, I've been teaching high school age homeschoolers. I teach a 2-semester U.S. history class, like our actual history, and I teach a 1-semester Christian ethics class. I've had over 600 students in the last 10 years. I have 150 small.
We have to.
Replace ourselves. If we don't replace ourselves, this is all for naught. I'll be dead.
I'll be in heaven. I'll be celebrating with my Lord and Savior.
And this place will be in trouble, worse than it's ever been,
If we don't procreate and teach
for young people how to think critically,
for me,
how to think biblically, and how to engage
relentlessly.
So we're going to get an update. We've got Representative Dennis Riddell, who's North Carolina House District 64. We have Senator Norm Sanderson, North Carolina Senate District 2. By the way, let's give them a round of applause for serving.
And then, of course, President of State, Mark Meckler, is going to do a little panel. We'll find out what has happened,
What is happening, and what's going to happen next?
even though this is
Don't play Republican.
don't for 1 second think that that gives you
W, because it doesn't.
they
You
will
only answer when you speak. So we have to engage. Mark, come on up. Let's welcome these folks to the table. Yeah, we're up. Sorry. We're worried about rain, and I think a lot of you guys probably said prayers for good weather. Well, God bless you guys for being here. We appreciate you because convention of state doesn't happen without you. Just before I came in, I was sitting in the senator's office up there on the 6th floor, and I happened to look out the window, and I saw you. What a beautiful sight from the Senate office, right? I love that. Like, I get the chance to travel all around the country, hang out with folks like you all over the country. And when I travel, I get thanked a lot for what I do. And the real thanks is to be here with you guys. It's not what I do, it's what you do. I can tell you, inside the building right now, they're watching. They appreciate you. So why don't we make some noise and let them know we're here? So, look, there's a couple of things I want to talk about today. Obviously, we have Representative Riddell, Senator Sanderson. These are two of our biggest supporters in the legislature here. And these are folks also that know about convention and states for a very long time. So we're going to talk a little bit today about not just what's going on right now, what's going on today, but what's happened over the years. Convention and states as an organization has existed for 9 years. We've got a lot of major events throughout the history of past United States, not past history, conventions. We had a simulated convention back in 2016, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about why it's so important, and especially right now to support convention states. So, big round of applause for your elected representative and senator. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to start with Representative Riddell. Why don't you just introduce yourself, folks? Let us know how you got into convention streets of my store. Well, good afternoon. We all. What a delight to see so many patriots on the grass here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome to your government. This is your building. That's your building. These are your buildings. The grass that you are sitting on, standing on, is your building, is your grass. I got first involved in Convention of States movement. I attended an ALEC convention in Washington, D.C. about 9 years ago. And I went to a presentation where our good brother, Senator Tom Coburn and Mark Meckler were present. And they presented to the legislators present the whole COS idea in Article 5. I had to break out my Constitution and look at Article 5 again. No kidding. I used to teach government. And I knew Article 5 had to do with amendments, but I had somehow skipped over that part about the authority, the power that the states are given by our founding fathers in Article 5 to rein in an out-of-control federal government. So that's why we're here. That's how I got started. Like many of you, I have children. My wife and I have done our work for the activist numbers. We have 8 children. My wife is Polly. She's right over there in the black. Mother is a multitude. And we knew we had to leave things better for our children than we found. That was the legacy from our parents, that you always leave things better. And we realized that as we were getting older and our children were getting older, that what we were going to leave for our children was a bag of wet garbage. And that was not going to suffice. So we were looking for something, some way that would answer the huge nature of the problem, which is an out-of-control Washington, D.C. And we found that solution in Article 5. Senator, I just totally want to appreciate everyone that has come out here today. Because this is what our democracy is all about. It's when the people become concerned about the direction of our nation, become concerned enough to put feet on their thoughts and their words. They stop screaming at the TV or just talking to their neighbors, but they begin to go out and to talk to others and recruit an army. And that's what I see here. It's North Carolina's army for the conviction of states. And I look at this group and I know that there are thousands that feel just like you do. I was first introduced to conviction of states at the mock convention. I went because out of curiosity. I knew a little about our amendments and safeguards that our founders had put in our Constitution. I wanted to learn more, and so I went not knowing what to expect. And I was blown away by the sincerity, the professionalism, the groups that came together to discuss the problems that even in 2016 our government was experiencing, and it's just gotten worse since then. But I mean, they were serious about this thing. And the great thing was that after we were divided into groups, we got to choose what part of government that we would like to concentrate on. I chose the court system and I don't know what made me choose the court system, but I did. And now here we are, that one of the biggest obstacles to democracy right now, it seems, are some of our court officials. And so we have got to continue this fight. We've lost some battles, but we're going to win this war. It's just a matter of time before the people prevail. It's just a matter of time before the words of other people, by the people, for the people, are all that is heard. That's all that needs to be heard. And you guys are here because you have the same concern I do, that our nation is absolutely out of control, going in the wrong direction, and they will never, Washington, D.C. will never rein itself in or curtail any of the powers that it has set aside for themselves. I think the only answer to this nation are the states and the people in those states taking the state rights that we have given away and put them back in the states and let our states serve the people inside the boundaries of their state. Can we still become a nation? Sure, we can stay a nation.
But there's so many things that we need to be doing at local levels, and it needs to go even below the state level. It needs to go down to the local level, that decisions are being made that affect you and your families and the next generation. Because what we're doing right now, one of the biggest concerns I have is that we are spending the next generations and the generations after that. We are obligating them to almost a level of poverty for the debt that this nation finds itself in. And we're not going to have a president that comes along and decrees that we're going to forgive all of this debt, because this debt is not going to be forgiven. It's going to have to be paid back. And so I'm here because I think that that's more of a concern to me than China, than Russia, than epidemics, pandemics, whatever you name. And so that's why I'm here. And that, I think, is the only way that Washington will ever bring its spending under control, is by a move from the states. And this is the best movement that I've ever seen to do that.
Thank you, Senator. So, Representative, you also were at the simulated convention. Can you describe that experience, folks? A lot of people have come into the movement since we had that simulated convention back in 2016. That's been a long time now, right? That's 6 years ago. Seems like it was just yesterday in some ways. So can you describe what that experience was like attending that convention?
Thank you, Mark. We attended the convention, and every state had their own little tripod here that marked that state. And I was pleased to serve with Senator Sanderson, my House colleague Burt Jones. At the time, the three of us were the North Carolina delegation. And what that simulation did, I wish you all could participate in something like that, because what it did was reacquaint the other attendees that were there with the rich tradition of conventions that our nation actually has. And we have forgotten about the Stamp Act Congress, self-energized. It wasn't energized by a Congress, by a king, or by a president. It was the people in the colonies organizing themselves to oppose tyranny. The First Continental Congress, the Second Continental Congress, the Constitutional Convention. All of these things were homegrown, generated by the people, by we, the people. And our founders, in their wisdom, gave us the path upon which we could rein in an out-of-control federal government. And that was with Article 5, a convention of the states, limited to specific goals and able to be used whenever we, the people, wise up enough to know that we have that power. That is a great power held by the state legislatures. And I appreciate so much every one of you being here to remind me and to remind my colleagues that the states have the power over the federal government if we will only exercise it. The simulation proved to me it can be done. It can be done decently and in order. It can be done with a purpose. It can stay within the purposes stated. It's not a runaway. It's not a high risk. It's more of a high risk to leave things as they are. So let's get busy and let's get Convention of States passed here in North Carolina.
Thank you, Representative. So, Senator, could you describe a little, because we're talking in an abstract way about we have this convention and all these people came together. What does that really mean? What was it like when you got there? What was it like walking into the hall for the first time? I know for me, when I walked in, there was a giant American flag on the back. I mean, a giant American flag on the back wall. All these tables were set up. You had all these tripods around with all the states on it. It was a little bit overwhelming when I walked in the room. What was that like for you when you went to that convention?
Well, it was to see all of the representatives and the senators from the other states. It just lets you know the importance of what we were doing there, and the repercussions that were going to be felt from that mock convention, because I think that's where Convention of States really got its legs from. And because people left that convention and they went back to their home states and they began to assure people that what the founding fathers put in over 200 years ago as a safeguard for our liberty was still just as much effective in 2016 as it was when they wrote it. And I don't know whether they came up with the idea of Convention of States. Don't know who put that in there. I don't know if they were on their knees praying when that happened, or if they were down at the bar drinking. I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. Because somebody came up with the idea there is going to come a time when a centralized federal government is going to try to take over this country. And we have to put a safeguard. We have to put a trigger in place so that when that happens, the people will have a plan already there. We are not flying this plane while we're trying to build this plane. This has already been established. I think the mall convention showed that it would work. I sat in a room around a conference table with about 40 or 50 legislators from all over this country, and there was not a single one that was there for their own agendas. They were there to help propel this nation into the prosperity and into the direction that God ordained and put this nation together for to start with. And so we can forget that. We can let this fizzle. And I've seen other groups rise up, and they're prominent for a year or two, and then they're gone. This is something that needs to continue because we are going to prevail over this. I'm praying almost every day that it happens in North Carolina this year so that we don't have to start over again next year. But if we have to start over again next year, we will. One thing that you need to know, the General Assembly has almost entirely overturned in the last 6 or 8 years. New people come into this General Assembly every single 2-year session, and they have to be educated because they don't think like I thought. I'm of the old guard. I'm 70, almost 71 years old, so I've seen a lot of things in my life. We have a lot of people in their mid-40s and early 50s that are in the General Assembly right now. They haven't seen the hard times that this nation is getting ready to go to if we allow the federal government to rule and reign over us without any means by which to stem that tide. But I can tell you that we will continue to spend time educating people. We have folks like Mark that are willing to come. We have other people who are willing to come. We've had occasion after occasion after occasion to come together in groups. And it doesn't matter to me if it's 5 or 25. We are educating the people as to what the federal government is doing to our nation, doing to our future, and that there is a method by which we can control it. And that's just the way that we're to go.
Thank you, Senator. So Dennis, a similar question for you. Again, you managed to get the placard. Obviously, you got the memento. What were you expecting when you went to the convention, and what was it like when you actually got there?
Thank you, Mark. I got the souvenir. You know, instead of getting the shirt, I got the tripod here. Folks, with anything at Williamsburg, Virginia, Colonial Williamsburg is an event. That is a fantastic place. It is rich with our nation's history, especially the founding, the period of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitutional Convention. It just overflows there. And in the facility where we were, what Mark said was true. You walked onto the floor for the first time, and here were all the tripods, huge flag, and right away it put a sobriety to what we were about. We were there to demonstrate to that generation, to our generation, what had been already previously demonstrated to previous generations, and that is an organic state-called, colony-called movement can change the direction of a great nation. You know, sometimes I don't refer to this as convention of states, I refer to it as an intervention of states. Our federal government is addicted to deficit spending. It is absolutely incapable, whichever party's in control right now. Doesn't matter. It is incapable of controlling its spending. So just like in a family, you would have an intervention for a drug-addled child, we need to have an intervention for a drug-addled federal government. And that path is Article 5.
True words. So you guys are both in the fight. Obviously, you guys have already passed it in the House. We got a fight going on in the Senate now. So you're talking to the folks that are the troops in the field. So what do they need to do to make sure the Senate takes this up and gets it done this session?
You just need to continue doing it. You're the most persistent group I think has ever been to Raleigh, North Carolina. And you're doing it the right way. And you are changing minds. Okay? You're changing hearts and you're changing minds. And I can tell you that we have a huge, a huge occasion working for our benefit, and that's the federal government itself. Because every single day, when you think things can get no worse, they get worse. And I think that's going to continue, and it seems to continue no matter who's in power in Washington, D.C. I think sometimes I heard something on the news weeks ago that really concerned me, and it was talking about who's in charge in Washington, D.C., and I don't think anybody seems to know who's in charge in Washington, D.C. And so we know who's in charge in North Carolina. Legislation, as far as laws, as far as this convention is concerned, I would say just to continue to talk to your senators, continue to tell them out of your heart why it is that you think this is so important. I know you have talking points, and I know that we all pretty much are on the same page, but you need to ask God to show you what in your heart is the key element that had you out here today in this 90-degree weather with no shade and attending a Convention of States rally. There's something inside of every single one of us that will connect with these people that you have elected to come up here and represent you, and that's what you need to go into their offices, and that's what you need to communicate to them, and we are going to come out on the right side of this.
Thank you. Look, I want to give you guys one piece of advice when you talk to senators, when you talk to reps, when you talk to their staff. Always be kind. And these guys take a lot of abuse. And, you know, we all think of them and they're politicians, and so maybe you have harsh feelings towards politicians. But a great number, probably all the people in that building, come in with the right idea in the sense they want to serve their communities. And they may not always have the same ideas as you. They may not have the same politics as you or the same ideology as you, but they're there because they want to serve their community and they want to serve their state. And that means we treat them always with respect and kindness and love. You know, the old saying, get a lot more bees with honey, right? That's the real deal. And so go in and build relationships. Senator told you, speak from your heart. It's good to have talking points. That's fine. It's good to know your subject matter, but make sure that you also go in and say, look, it's because I'm a grandfather. It's because I'm worried about my kids. It's because I'm worried for my country. I'm a veteran. I served my country. I took an oath, and I'm still living up to that oath. And so these are the truths that you guys have to speak. Yeah, that's probably a veteran over there shouting. How many veterans in the audience here today? God bless you guys, men and women, for serving, for willing to take that oath. By the way, I watched my son take the oath for the United States Marine Corps, and I was completely blown away because I didn't know that when you take the oath for the military, you take the oath to defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, right? So I've had a lot of veterans say to me all over the country, I took an oath, and that oath never expires. And so they're still in the fight, and this is a good fight for them. Representative, I want to close with one thing. I want to close with you. You were successful getting this across the line in the House. So we're done in the House this session. We hope we don't have to come back to you for the same thing next year. We plan on getting it done in the Senate for the senators' leadership. What would your advice be for the citizens and for the senators about getting it done this session?
Don't ever give up. We have too much in our history as a nation of people who did not give up, and we are here today in a largely still free country because of that. Don't get discouraged. Don't get mad. Get effective. And everything you just heard that Mark said of how to communicate is important. One of the attractions for me to being involved in the Article 5 movement, it was to precipitate civic conversations about long forgotten ideals that have made us free. The First Amendment, Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the limited government, the checks and balances, the separation of powers, federalism, power shared between the states and the federal government. All of that was put in place by others for us. And we must initiate a very large civic conversation across this land, in every state, in every community, in every county, every city, about what is the right size of government. What is the proper role of government? It is to protect, not provide. To protect your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. God bless you all. Do not become weary in well-doing.
Senator, Representative, thank you. God bless you guys for what you do.
this on? Okay, so we got, I wasn't going to do two backward videos, but I am very quickly. We've got a short video. This is the one, folks. Many of you know that in October of 2021, I like to say I became a crazy person because one of our volunteers ended up in hospital with COVID. And she would anybody take care of it. Much to my dismay, I was not able to save her life. And I'm willing to stand on the stage and say that her death is the responsibility of Atrium Healthcare University in Charlotte, North Carolina. She died of cardiac arrest brought on from dehydration and lack of nutrition. I want to spend a moment, and I'm actually about somebody else too. I want to spend a moment of silence remembering Tara Chantner. She was a block walker for us. She was very active with Heritage Action. She was a remarkable woman. We have another volunteer that passed away on May the 25th. Bob Diamond, if any of you all know who he was, he fought a number of health issues, and he became a district captain with us in 2017. He was our first and most active Facebook editor in the history of COS North Carolina, and we need a new Facebook editor. He responded to every objection that ever came across our Facebook page. He was amazing. And after a long battle with a number of different illnesses, I wanted to say, I can remember when he went into the hospital that he called me on the telephone. He did not sound good. He told me he was in the hospital, and he said, there's something on the Facebook page somebody needs to take care of. I asked our amazing videographer, who I'd love for you to meet, he's in the stage in the back, live streaming this event on Facebook. I asked him if he would grab one picture off of Facebook of Bob so everybody could see him. And he ended up, in about an hour or less, creating a video of all of Bob's photographs on Facebook. So I want to take a moment for you all to be able to see that. So they're going to show it on screen.
Maybe I love you. Why is all this I have? Maybe I treat you. Why is good as I should have? If I made you feel second best, girl, I'm sorry I was blind. But you were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Maybe I hold you all those lonely, lonely times. I guess I never told you. I'm so happy that you're mine. Little things I should have said and done, I never took the time. But you were always on my mind.
Thank you, and I apologize. My mother is listening on my phone because they can't hear it on her computer. So excuse my doing my. So the next thing we're going to do, Steve, come on up. Those of you all who registered for the event may have seen that if you registered and you showed up, you might leave with some pretty cool COS stuff. And I think the coolest of them. Can you hold those two things real quick? I think the coolest, and I want one, is this guy right here. So this is the first thing we're raffling off. Whoops. This is the first thing we're raffling off. So I'll pull it out. And if they're not here, we'll raffle again. Beverly Coble. Beverly, are you here? Oh no! How about Kathy Lawler? Yay! All right. And we're a little behind, so we're going to do two more. Okay. My mother taught me not to use cuss words. So the next two things we have are an absolutely not Joe Biden car window decal that I think has a rifle on it. Big for your back, really good for you guys that drive trucks. And so we're going to raffle off two of those, and then we'll be back to raffle off a few other things. Okay. No, I'm sorry. This you had to register, so we knew you were coming and show up. Okay. This one is for Chip. Is it Liner or Leaner? Chip, are you here? Okay. Wayne Stanley. Woo! I know he's here. Okay. Yep. And Clint Lord, are you here? I know you told me you were coming because I got an email. No? Well, let's get another one. How about Ann Matthias? Ann Matthias, okay, come on up. There'll be more to come.
All right. The dangerous thing about registering is that if you don't show up, now they know your name. They have your name, they have your email address, they have your address, so follow through. That's the lesson. Anybody hungry yet? We're in the South. It's okay to eat, right? So we've got a couple of food trucks down between the two buildings. So if you're looking for a break from the sun, want to get something cool to drink, I have no idea what they're feeding you, but support small businesses. We've got two food trucks down there, okay? So make sure you take advantage of that. Okay, our first main speaker, I don't know if you've looked at the schedule. And the first thing I thought when I looked at this guy's name is I can't say his name. Did anybody see that? Here's how he spells his last name. Uzcategui. Ready? Say it. Ready?
Show. Yeah, that's exactly what my response was. Then he was kind enough to hand me his card. And on his card, he said, who's got a key? Who's got a key? So Jonathan has got a key. He said, "Thank you for your grace." Yeah, that would be nice. Okay, here's a really important lesson to North Americans. How many of you have ever been outside the country? Right, that's really important. You have to get outside of the country to get your purpose and justice. Because the way we live life in America is highly unusual. It's a blessing from the Lord. And oftentimes we have too many Americans that don't know what it looks like to not live here, to not live under these types of blessings. So when somebody comes here from Venezuela, and they're going to tell you something, you should listen. Because he's already been where if we do nothing, this country is headed to a place like Venezuela. Let's welcome Jonathan. Forever. This is what we're fighting for. My name is Jonathan Uzcategui. If you don't know how to pronounce, it sounds like Uzcategui. Remember that. I am an American citizen by choice and Venezuela by birth. I came here to this country 2 decades ago, a little over 2 decades ago. And the reason that I got involved in politics the way I am now is because I see the same monster that destroyed my great country, Venezuela. It's the same monster that is trying to destroy this great nation. And let me tell you, I tell people all the time, I watched this movie before in Spanish, and I'm watching it in English right now. But we don't do something, this nation will become the Venezuelan 2.0. We have a lot of politicians that don't understand. They're so well disconnected from the people. And that's what we're here to remind them. They work for us. We don't work for them. I want to start by telling you a little bit of history of Venezuela. For those that don't know, Venezuela was a republic with three branches of government. At one point, we had two major political parties to represent Venezuela. One was called Acción Democrática. That one represented all the socialist liberals in Venezuela. The other one was called COPA. That one represented all the conservative Christians in Venezuela. So it sounds familiar, right? So we were a republic. We have three branches of government. We have a constitution. Our founding fathers came to this great nation and took some of the ideas from Venezuela, from the United States to Venezuela. The only difference when they asked George Washington to become the king of this great nation, he refused that idea and became our president for the term, our first president. Venezuelans went a different route. They allowed the generals to be leaders, and they were the dictators into earlier 1960s. When we finally got rid of our last dictator, and conservatives came to do something that we do very well. And what is it? Take care of families. Take care of business, open business, go to work. Worship God. But we stay away from politics as much as possible. And that's being our mistake. Happened to us over there, happened to us here. We always think that politics is something that we now want to be involved in. And I honestly believe trying the left to have implanted this idea in ourselves. When you hear the silent majority, I honestly believe the selected that came and labeled us that way. Keep us quiet. If we need to become a loud majority, the silent majority, no more. So what happened to us? As soon as we started having democratic elections in Venezuela, my friends, it took 50 years to the rise of Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. And you wonder why this happened. In the country, if you guys don't know, at one point we were ranked number 4 in the world, how rich we were. We have more oil than Saudi Arabia. We were like a little United States in South America. Venezuela was the one that actually has electricity in Latin America because we were so rich. I never saw myself coming and moving out of my country. You know, a lot of Venezuelans used to come here, and believe it or not, that's where we used to have station homes because we were so rich. The same thing I see happening in this nation. I started talking to like this over 10 years ago, and a lot of Americans would come and say, Jonathan, that's not ever going to happen in the United States. Sure. First I said it, I got pushed back, and I said, maybe they got it. Maybe they're going to get everything together, and then, but as the years went by, today I'm here to tell you, a lot of these politicians don't understand what they're facing. A lot of these politicians feel and think that politics is usual. It's business as usual. Nothing's really going on here. Nothing to see here. What happened to us is happening the same thing, the same exact thing here. We're going through a radical Marxist revolution. They understand they cannot take this country by force. They have to do it gradually, making you to a place and feel that there's no hope, and you need to surrender. And I'm here to tell you, I will make sure that I don't allow that to happen here. When I became an American citizen, I swear an oath to protect this nation from foreign and domestic threats.
My friends, we are having a domestic race called the radical Marxist people from this great nation. And we need to stand up and fight back against this nonsense. So what happened to us as soon as Hugo Chavez got to power? The first thing he does, got rid of our constitution. Why? He said it was racist. Sound familiar? Oh, and he said it was too old. Something that I hear all the time from the other side. But he didn't stop there. As soon as Hugo Chavez got into power, he nationalized our police. Something that I see in the United States of America. It's a movement that is growing. It's gotten quiet lately, but it's still there. Do not be deceived. It's called defund the police. And let me explain to you what the defund the police is all about. A lot of these politicians don't understand, and some understand they're playing dumb. What's going to happen? Crime will rise up. Our local police are not going to be able to handle the crime. They're going to start asking the federal government for money and help and assistance. You will see politicians coming together, as they always do sometimes, to compromise our values. It says, in order to end systemic racism, police brutality, and gun violence, we need to nationalize our police. Remember, you heard that here. That will happen. The plan is nationalizing the police will tell me we're one step to become a communist state. Chavez was very smart fellow. See, a lot of people don't know that Chavez got put in power by the very, very wealthy, the so-called educators, the so-called elite in Venezuela. Take a good look and see who do you think is pushing all these Marxist revolutions to our throats? It's not the poor people, it's the wealthy. Corporations. My friends, our religion has been compromised for too long. We need to bring back into church. We have to. Our politics compromised for way too long. Our corporations. And the most important one, our education system. That's the one that I'm kind of worried about the most. Because education is going to set up who are going to be the next leaders of this great nation. See, not only did Chavez nationalize the police and got rid of our constitution, he went and gave us right away gun control. Right after that, a gun buyback program. And then he finished with gun confiscation. What you see in this nation right now that is scaring me is called the red flag laws. Even some politicians on the Republican side, I think sometimes they don't know, are they playing dumb? We have to remind them. Gun controls always affect law-abiding citizens. Criminals, people that have mental issues, do not support them to buy a gun. Chavez understood by disarming the Venezuelan people, there was not going to be a way for us to fight back. That's what they're trying to do here. You see recently what happened in Texas. And now, out of the blue, close to the midterm election, there are shootings happening all over. And you hear actors, the elite, coming into the White House. The people that don't understand one thing about guns, trying to lecture us about guns. That doesn't make any sense. We should have never allowed this. We should have pushed back from the very beginning. But once again, I'm guilty of myself. We tend to say politics, it had nothing to do with me. I don't want to do nothing with politics. And we have to re-educate ourselves. Politics, you have to be something that we have to get involved from now to the day we die. So what happened after Venezuela got gun confiscation? And we completely now went from one of the four richest countries in the world. Now we're one of the poorest countries in the world. Thank you for this idea. Thomas ran on this idea, Medicare for all and free education. They never tell you, somebody, even our freedoms, my friend, are not free. Somebody has to pay for this freedom. In Venezuela, we have free medical, but there's no medicine. We have free education, but there's no work. This is what the politicians are promising here to these new generations that are in college. I call them indoctrination places. But it's the education system. That's where the issue that we have to take over and get back our education system. Why? People once say, who do you think is going to push agendas to everything? Those doctors became those that work in the health department. The engineers, architects, and science started working in your county, your city, the state, and the federal government. So when you were minding your own business going to work, these people were pushing agendas where our taxpayer money. And we didn't know. The good thing that I'm so glad to be here and see so many people that tell me that this country is waking up. Let me remind you something. If you know the history of this nation, it took 20% of the population to build this great nation. The revolution we started with 20% of the population. As long as we start waking up little by little, I believe, with the help of our Almighty, we'll be able to take our country back. So something that I saw in Venezuela and now I see here, and I want you guys to be aware of it. Our guns can be taken away from us, and when somebody tells me, Jonathan, that's not going to happen, we were not allowed that to happen. Well, I got to tell you something. I never thought that I see something that I saw in Venezuela by Hugo Chavez. It's called diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, yeah. See, you guys got to understand, and these politicians need to understand. Fighting with this Marxist socialist is like playing whack-a-mole. You catch them in one place, they appear somewhere else. They always have contingency plans because they understand if this plan doesn't work, we have another one ready to go. They'll take it, they'll repackage the idea, and they give it right back to you. Everything sounds like you want to help everybody. But in reality, it's an extent. They're not here to help anybody. All they want is power. I saw it in my native country, and I see it here right now. The diversity. In the name of racists, oh, we don't have enough somebody of this color, that race, will destroy the system. Equity. We have to have some redistribution of the wealth. But the one that I'm very concerned, and I believe this is one of the best ideas, this Marxists have put in place that inclusion. My Lord, these people, if they have so much time and so much effort to do good, they can actually do some really good things. In the name of inclusion, they will please the mind of all your children. Turn them against you. And one day, in their mind, have the majority of that nation who were no longer here marched to the polls and elect the first communist president. See, you guys gotta understand, for Marxists, socialist is a religion, and the government is God. That's what we need to start understanding. We need to understand our enemies so we know how to attack our enemies. A lot of people don't know. They just think, oh, it's just business as usual. Nothing to see here. Don't worry, we're going to get back everything. Everything's going to be in place. No, it's not. I believe even sometime when we put the right people in office, you will have these professors, these teachers, looking and finding ways through their ideas. That's what they're doing. My friends, they're not after us. They understand, they know they cannot change my mind, they cannot change nobody's mind here. But the children, oh yeah, they know. That's what they're after. Our children. They understand that the best way to take a country is doing it that way. I believe Venezuela was a country that was used like a laboratory. Put all these ideas in place. Let's experiment this thing. When they find out, man, we know what works, what doesn't work. Let's go and bring it. This country has been going through a revolution for a while. But now, at least, they're not hiding their intentions. And I like that. We know who our enemy is now. It's not Republicans and Democrats. These Marxists are infiltrating in a party and the other side. I'm pretty sure there's good Democrats up there, but they don't know. We need to wake them up. It's got to be an American issue, not a Republican or Democrat. Not only that Chavez did what he did something that scared me too here. He didn't close our churches. Something that I saw here during the pandemic, when they closed our churches. They didn't close Costco, they didn't close Sam's Club, they didn't close Walmart. Oh, but they closed our churches. Some of these religious leaders bowed down to the government. What their job was to stand up and say no. He modified our religion. He gave us Santeria. Santeria is a religion. They have to do a lot of with worshiping the devil, worshiping the guy. It's all okay. Let's mix this up and it's all good. What do you think I see here in this great nation is so-called progressive Christians? Look, I'm not against homosexuals. I'm not fighting with anybody. You be what you want to be, do whatever you want to do. This is why we live in this great nation. But do not come and try to push your nonsense to my throat and everybody else. I drive around the state. I'm right now going over the state doing this speaking tour about exposing the crimes of socialism. Thank you so much for the state convention of the state for bringing me here. And I tell you, every time I drive and I see churches with Black Lives Matter signs, the rainbow, drag queen story time, and parents be okay with that? So-called Christians be okay with that? What is wrong with these people? Amen. Once again, you can do whatever you want. Just don't push it to our children. Stay away from our children. I'm going to close with this. It's time for us to be closer to God. Put our difference to the side and come together as a one. United we stand, divided we fall. Take care of families. Take care of financials. being bold in politics from now to the day we die. At this point, we're no longer doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for our children, so they have a better place to be when we go and seek the Lord. Thank you so much. Eventually, I'm going to be running for office. I cannot tell you what I'm running for. But I tell you this, I'm going to have to campaign in 100 counties. That's what I can tell you. God bless you, and God bless the great state of North Carolina. Thank you. Let's give it up again for Jonathan, our friend from Venezuela. One thing I want to follow up on, Jonathan, you need to know this, since you're going to travel 100 counties. In the state of North Carolina, there's about 18,000 churches. Now, when Governor Cooper, the Pope, decided to shut down all these churches, there was only one pastor in the state that sued him. It was Ron Beatty in the Winston-Salem area. Because, like the Apostle Paul, Ron Beatty knew his rights. The Apostle Paul used his rights as a Roman citizen. Ron Beatty used his rights as an American citizen. And as soon as that case got to the judge,
they overturned it. It took one day to implement the rights that we have from God, protected by the U.S. Constitution. And in one day, every church in North Carolina was allowed to reopen. The question I have for you is, did your church reopen the next day? And if it didn't, you need to have a lunch date with your pastor. All right, we're going to give away a couple of, pocket knives. These are dangerous. You crazy conservatives and your weapons. All right, we're going to give away a couple pocket knives. Oh, a handful. Okay, here we go. Wendy Dameron. Wendy, right here, down front. Be careful with that knife, Wendy. Don't try to take it into the legislature. We don't need that. All right, here's another one. Craig Kirby. Mr. Kirby, come on down. Thank you, sir. I love somebody that registers and shows up. God bless you. One more. We got one more. Brian Tomlinson. Brian Tomlinson. Brian's over there. Come on down, Brian. You're young. You can run. All right, we've got 2 more videos that we're going to do for you. How many of you know who Pete Hegseth is from Fox News? So we've got a video that Pete recorded for you as activists, for grassroots folks, normal people, who this country is supposed to be run by the way. A little bit of a reminder, you are the boss. Raise your hand if you're a boss here in America. That should be everybody. Good. So we're going to hear from Pete and then Senator Rick Santorum, who's been a great voice in many, many ways on the life issue, on conservatism. He's a senior advisor to Convention of States. So we're going to watch these videos from these two, and then we're going to move on with our lineup.
Hey, everybody, it's Pete Hegseth, and I'm so sorry I can't join you for the rally. But I wanted to let everyone in North Carolina, all you supporters of Convention of States, I wanted you to know how much we support you, how much I support you in this critical effort. And I know how close you are. I know it's passed the House. It's got a shot to pass the Senate there in North Carolina. And if and when that does, and I believe it is when, not if, because of the efforts of amazing grassroots volunteers across this organization, when that happens, it'll be the 20th state in the movement to enact Article 5, to trigger Article 5 for an amending convention to save our country. And I want to thank all of you for the effort you're putting into this. I want to urge senators in North Carolina to understand the gravity of this issue, how significant it is that you were sent to represent we the people in the state of North Carolina, the amazing state of North Carolina. I don't just say that. I love it. I wish I could be there for this event. And yes, there are things you do for your constituents. And yes, there are things you do because you can't pound on them. And then there are things you can do to be a part of history to save our republic. That's what Article 5 is. That's what Convention of States is all about. It is an opportunity to fulfill what our founders understood, that if the federal government became so burdensome, so overreaching in what they did, the power was in the hands of the people and their elected representatives, the state legislatures, to take it back. And let me tell you, the world is starting to pay attention. Media likes round numbers. You get to 20, people start paying attention. You get to 25 states, 30 states, they're going to pay attention. And this is exactly the kind of debate and conversation that we need to have in this country. So I salute all of you patriots out there, all of you tireless volunteers of Convention of States. It is a phenomenal organization. I'm proud to be associated with it. And someday I look forward to joining you in person, and then eventually at a convention, God willing, where we have an opportunity to rein this federal government in and bring it inside the confines of what our founders intended. Go get it, North Carolina. We're behind you. Number 20 soon.
Hi, I'm Rick Santorum. You know, over the years as a senator and presidential candidate, I had a chance to meet a lot of state legislators. And you know, the one thing they always said to me was, could you get the federal government off our backs? Could you stop all that spending that's going on in Washington, D.C.? Can you do something to control the swamp in Washington, D.C.? I heard it over and over and over again. Well, now we have an opportunity to do just that. In North Carolina, the North Carolina House has passed a resolution that will control the spending, the jurisdiction, and the term limits of people in Washington, D.C. And we have a chance here in North Carolina to be the 20th state in the union to adopt a resolution that calls for a convention of states to propose amendments to the Constitution to do just that, to limit the power of the federal government. So it's time to go to your state senators and say, okay, it's time to put up or shut up. If you really do say that you want to control federal spending, if you really do say that you want the federal government to stop mandating things on the states and putting all these burdens on the states and controlling things that are going on in the state of North Carolina, you have one shot. The shot that our founders gave you in Article 5 of the Constitution. The founders, people say, well, we're messing with the Constitution. The founders put this in the Constitution for such a time as this, for a time when government in Washington has gotten out of control. I don't know what is it? It's $30 trillion in debt right now. You need 40, 50. What is your legislature? What is your to actually pull the trigger on this constitutional provision of the state legislature to do something that no other branch change the Constitution, which happens on Washington, D.C., to make a return to the republic, the federalist republic that we had when this country was founded. Please, I appreciate you being here today. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you. You got some great speakers there. Please make your voice heard and make the Senate in North Carolina number 20 in the state. It is my tremendous moment to have a state like North Carolina to help your states that are now teed up after this next election to get us to the 34 we need to be successful. Thank you all for being there. God bless. All right, ready to it?
Few more giveaways.
By the way, let me help you understand something right quick.
In America, we throw around numbers.
Pretty easy, like a million, a billion, a trillion.
Did you ever get lost in that reality? All right, here's something to help you remember. How long ago was a million seconds?
11 days.
How long ago was a billion seconds?
30 years.
Nope.
32 years.
1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years. So we throw around $30 trillion in debt. It's almost unimaginable. But that's Washington, D.C. for you. Okay, here we go.
Before the time's over, we're giving away, I think it's 7 now, because Catherine, I think I pronounced her last name, Del Conte, who's a national employee and a district captain for us, Catherine, brought me 2 more. So we have 7 activist fuel coffee mugs, and if you're a coffee drinker, they're big mugs.
If you're not a coffee drinker, see me after class. Vanessa Paulson. Vanessa Paulson. It's Vanessa here. Vanessa is here somewhere. Back. Oh, there she is. Okay. Good job, Vanessa. Here you go. Here's another one. How many are we doing this time? Vanderworker. Where's Vanderworker? Come on, girl. You're up. It's another one of those easy last names. Vanderworker. Here you go, Bonnie. Where is it? Good job. All right, one more. Deborah Kersendorfer. That's another easy one. Deborah Kersendorfer. Is Deborah here? Deborah K. Deborah going once, going twice. Wait, way back there. All right, good job. Way to go. Please forgive me for whatever I just did to your last name. Okay, Rick Green. How many of you are familiar with Rick Green? So Rick Green is one of the people that inspired me to start doing what I'm doing and trying to help educate our younger people on this little thing called the Constitution. Former Texas State Representative, national speaker, author, radio host. Rick and his wife, Kara, founded Patriot Academy, a leadership training program specializing in applied civics with biblical, historical, and constitutional foundation.
otherwise known as the truth. So Rick teaches with the truth. Let's welcome Rick Green to the stage.
Thank you, thank you. All right, good afternoon. I love North Carolina. Better than that, I love being with patriots in North Carolina. And all the patriots that came here from all over the country that want to be a part of the solution to save our country. So listen, I always do the good, the bad, the ugly. Let me just say right off the bat a little bit of good. Be of good cheer. All is not lost. The laws of nature and nature's God have not changed. The principles of liberty are not dead. We can actually infuse those principles back into this culture once again, and we can get good results. Again, Solomon was right. There's nothing new under the sun. The things we're facing right now can be defeated. We can restore liberty in our country, but we have to shift our focus and be willing to give more of our time and energy and money to these things. So we don't have to despair. I get it. It's bad out there. There are things in our country right now I never thought I would see in my lifetime. There are things happening in communities just like mine, in Dripping Springs, Texas. There's things happening in Dripping Springs, Texas, and in little towns all across this country that I never thought would happen in our nation. So I get it that it's bad. But when we see the bad, results, we don't have to despair and give up. You don't have to, some of my friends, they're done, man. They're like, America's done for it, forget it, tell the Lord. Grab your guns and canned food, go hide out at the ranch. And you should have the guns, you should have the canned food, and you should have the ranch. Okay, I'm not saying don't have those things. But now is not the time to go hide out and say, I give up. Those people, they depress everybody. They're like, they're like the 10 spies that came back to the promised land. You know the story in the Bible where the 12 spies go check things out. 10 of them come back and say, oh, it's just too hard. The giants are too big. The fortified cities, there's no way we can live. The Bible says that depressing report was so bad that it depressed the people, and an entire generation had to die in the wilderness. Now, we don't want to be like that. We need to be like the other two spies. So there were 12, right? There were two others, Joshua and Caleb. We know their names. We don't know the wusses that were the other 10 names, right? But we know Joshua and Caleb. Why? Because Joshua and Caleb saw the exact same thing. Saw the same bad and ugly. They saw the same challenges, but their report was very simply, giants, yep, huge, bigger than we've ever seen. Fortified cities, unbelievable. But God's given us the land, let's go take it. That was Joshua and Caleb's attitude. That's the attitude that we need to have as we face these immense challenges. I'm not downplaying, I'm not down here. I mean, listen, we're at the 250-year mark, folks. This is that place when great nations, great empires fall apart throughout history. Fortunately, America has broken the mold every step of the way. So I believe we can break the mold again. I believe we can have a revival of freedom, a reformation of liberty and restoring those constitutional jurisdictions and actually coming back to federalism. But it's going to take some hard work. And just like you've been doing, you wouldn't be here today sitting out here in the sun all day. You wouldn't be working hard to get conviction state's passed here in North Carolina if you didn't already understand that. You know that we've got to work hard on this thing, and you know what's at stake. You know, the probably most overused, I don't know if you could overuse it, but maybe one of the most popular quotes of Ronald Reagan that we've had on our website was 25 years, so I kind of lay claim to it, but it's when Reagan says that freedom is a fragile thing. It's never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it to our kids in the bloodstream. In other words, your children don't understand freedom just because you understood freedom. Your children don't understand freedom just because previous generations understood. I can promise you a kid born in Austin, Texas, will make you just as good a communist as one born in Beijing or Moscow. Like these days, if they're born in Austin, they have a better chance of being a communist, unfortunately. But then it's not about, what the previous generation believed doesn't automatically get passed. Reagan said you have to pass it intact. You have to be purposeful about it. You got to fight for it. You got to dig in. You got to be willing to scratch and claw in the trenches, if you will. The left has been doing that for decades in America. They've been in the fight. We've been enjoying the blessings of liberty, not bearing the burden that comes with producing liberty. And that's what we've got to do in terms of shifting our focus. And when I say shift our focus, that means I'm actually going to ask you to do even more than you've done up to this point. You know, we just had D-Day and a week before that, Memorial Day. And during that time, I always think about Lincoln's words in the Gettysburg Address. He said that the way you honor those who came before us that made this flag worthy of being waved, the way you honor them is you have an increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. So an increased devotion means we got to do more than what we've already done up to this point. That means more of our life, more of our fortune, more of our sacred honor to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. So what is the cause? The cause is the American way of life. It is the American system. It is the values that we find in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. And what we're here about today is that specific constitutional idea of federalism. That you should be the one to make the decisions in your life, not some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. And Reagan actually went on to say in that same speech, it's not usually shared with the quote, but he went on to say that if we don't pay attention to this, if we don't have a renewal of these principles, that we will someday in our sunset years be telling our children and our children's children what it was once like to live in America where men were free. Now, I hope I'm not in my sunset years yet, but let me just tell you what it was once like to live in America where men were free. This may shock you, but there was a time in America where men were free where you actually made the medical decisions for yourself, not Anthony Fauci. I'm sorry, that wasn't respectful. Coach Fauci. Coach Fauci, more like it, but there was a time in America, believe it or not, parents, when you made the education and medical decisions for your children, not some bureaucrat either at the state or federal level. And you decided when to expose them to sensitive subjects, not some grooming education. On whether you felt like the disease was bad enough that you should stay home instead of being ordered to do so by the people that are supposed to be protecting your rights, but instead violated our rights. I think one of the things that bothers me the most about how different it was when men were free in America is that we now have a situation where there was a time in America where North Carolina would make the decisions about local issues in your state, not Washington, D.C. We're now in a place where we have people, a San Francisco cabal running Washington, D.C. that actually believe that boys and men should be allowed into the bathrooms, showers, locker rooms of our daughters. Now, they not only believe that, they believe that they have the power to make you in North Carolina do that, whether you want to or not. That the federal government gets to decide, and in this case, that one person in the federal government, with a phone and a pen, with an executive order, can order every school in America to allow men and boys into girls' bathrooms, lockers, and showers. Now, if that's not a violation of federalism and a violation of morality and everything else, I don't know what else is. And yet we have people, to be blunt, right here in the North Carolina legislature that would say, we're not willing to overturn that action. We're not willing to use the power given to us in the Constitution to overturn this insanity coming from Washington, D.C., where they're trying to make the whole nation be like San Francisco. And that's what's essentially at stake here. Does North Carolina get to make these decisions for North Carolina, or do you want San Francisco running North Carolina? Because if you are against a convention of states, that means you're okay with San Francisco running North Carolina. If you're for a convention of states, you're saying, no, we don't want San Francisco or even the great state of Texas running North Carolina. We want North Carolina to run North Carolina. And that's the way it ought to be. You know, now this, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say these things. This man occupying the White House, let me just say it like that. Not only does he think that men and boys should be in girls' showers and bathrooms. And not only does he think he has the power to make that happen with a stroke of a pen, but now he's even blackmailing school districts and saying, we're going to take away your lunch money if you don't do these things. These people will use, in fact, how did he say it in the speech he gave in Buffalo? He said, there's people that are lying in order to have political gain, power, and profit. And then he proceeded to lie in order to have political gain, power, and profit. That's what they do. And the only way to overrule them is a convention of states. This is the tool that our founding fathers gave us. This is the constitutional method to properly, constitutionally nullify a federal election. So they gave us this amazing tool. We never used it before. And you can make an argument that it was never this bad. Federal government, not slowly, I mean quickly, gone completely off the rails. And it's been somewhat off the rails for honestly 80 years or so, but nothing quite like now. How brash these people in Washington, D.C. are. How they think that we're too stupid to decide the best things for our children, or for ourselves, or for our business, or for our parishioners, or whatever it might be. They truly believe that they are smarter than you and that they need to make those decisions for you. And it's not just, you would think that facts and evidence would change their mind. I mean, this whole effort to do this, you saw what happened in Raleigh County, Virginia, where the school district lied about the kid that, acted like he was transitioning so he could get into the girl's bathroom and rape one girl, and then they just move him to another school and he does the exact same thing. You would think that someone that had advocated for that insanity would then see that and go, you know what, that's wrong, that's evil. We need to stop this policy. But no, this man occupying the White House doubled down since that time last summer that all of that came out. He's done his executive order since then, and now the no school lunches if you don't follow their radical, extremely radical leftist agenda. So all of that to say, you're not going to change that in Washington, D.C. It has to be changed through the states. It's got to be the states that step up at this point. We could go to a million different issues that fit that exact same thing. Our borders right now, 200,000 illegals a month coming across. My home state of Texas is a disaster right now because we're not doing what we should be doing as a state under Article 1, Section 10. And I'll tell you one thing, one of our speakers this afternoon, if Colonel Allen West had been elected governor of Texas as he should have been, then Texas would be leading the way with Ron DeSantis and Florida. We need people like that. We've got to get behind them and get that kind of support out there to be able to win this. So I'll say this, with all the different issues, we could talk about energy and, gas doubling and it's all due to policies of this White House, by stopping the drilling, by stopping the pipelines, all the over-regulation. I mean, this is a result of the policies of the federal government. We should get them out of this business completely, let each state make its own. If now is not the time to overrule the federal government, good grief, what has to happen to wake you up and realize now is the time to overturn federal action? How bad does it have to get for you to say, okay, I get it, there's no perfect system, and we got all these scare tactics out there. Oh, if you do a convention of states, this will happen, and that'll happen. Everything they're afraid of happening at a convention of states that's bad is happening right now in Washington, D.C. We already have a runaway federal government. We already have them ignoring the Constitution and ruling with a constitution. We already have everything that people are afraid of. And the only chance we've got to put them back in the box, to overrule them and do this peacefully and to do this properly and civilly and constitutionally, is to exercise Article 5, call for the convention. North Carolina needs to be state number 20. We need to get this done right here, right now. I don't want to hear this talk about if it doesn't happen, we'll do it next time. Let's do it now. Let's make it happen right now in this state. And let's get these legislators to step up and make it happen. There's some people that say, "Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna win big in 2022. We're gonna win big in 2024, and the Republican Party's gonna save us in Washington, D.C." Can I just give you a little wake-up call? Look, I was a legislator in Texas. I was a Republican. I'm a Republican now. But can we just be honest for a second? Can I just talk real frank for a second? The $10 trillion dumped on the market as a part of the overreaction panicked response to COVID started with the Donald Trump White House. The 6 feet insanity rule with zero science behind it was made up on the spot in the Donald Trump White House. It was a Republican administration that foisted a lot of this stuff on the country. Friends, the immunity for these big pharma, trying to make sure I don't go down too big of a rabbit hole here. The immunity at the federal level for big pharma to make a product, the current one that does not work, has killed more than 30,000 people and injured millions. That immunity was done in the Ronald Reagan White House. Okay, I'm a Reagan fan. I got a kid named after Ronald Reagan. I got another kid with the same birthday as Ronald Reagan. I used to have a dog named Dutch. I am a Ronald Reagan fan. 5th best president in history on my list. Donald Trump is the 4th best president in history on my list. So I'm a fan of both of those guys. And they did the best they could with what they had. And hopefully maybe they get a chance to do it again. Well, not Reagan, I mean, obviously. Anyway, listen, they did the best they could with what they had, right? But a president cannot solve this problem. A Congress and a Republican majority in Congress cannot solve this problem. You will not be able to drain the swamp from within the swamp. This has got to come from outside. We, from outside of Washington, D.C., have to make them do this. It's not going to be solved in Washington, no matter who you elect as president this next go around. All right, it's not complicated, but it is hard. It's going to take time. It's going to take, honestly, some winter soldiers to make this happen. We're not going to win this. We're not going to make this huge shift in restoring constitutional jurisdictions. This huge shift away from what has become a national government that gets to do everything for everyone in the country. We're not going to shift back to a federal government that only does the 17 things listed in the Constitution and in the 27 amendments. We're not going to do something that big with a bunch of summer soldiers. It's not going to happen with people that'll just show up when it's easy or just get on board at the last minute. I know people tell us there's no chance, you're never going to get, it's too big, it's too hard, same thing as those 10 spies. Well, let me take you back to the week before Christmas, 1776. And if you get in the time machine with me and we travel back to 1 week before Christmas, we're going to get out of the time machine and we're going to sneak up behind this guy that's writing. Now, I don't know if he was in a cabin writing by candlelight or if he was out. I like to think he was sitting around a fire and just next to him was another little fire with troops and another fire with troops. I kind of picture that he was out there with the men that were suffering. And we're going to get out of our time machine. We're going to look over the shoulder of this guy, and the words that he's writing say this: "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this present crisis shrink from service to his country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman." See, he's saying summer soldiers and sunshine patriots, there's no way they would actually win the revolution. And if you really were getting in the time machine going back to the week before Christmas, 1776, and you were looking at around the world, every other nation had said, forget it, the Americans can't win. Most Americans said, forget it, the Americans can't win. 90% of Washington's troops had deserted him. He'd gone from 30,000 down to 2,500. It was over. But this guy around the fire named Thomas Paine is writing those words for an American crisis and publishing that in just the next few days. And a week later, George Washington would make that impossible decision to choose an impossible task to go against Hessian professional soldiers. That would be like the Boy Scouts taking on the Navy SEALs. And he takes that ragtag bunch that he still had with him, 1/3 of which did not even have boots. They were wrapping their feet in burlap. They were marching 9 miles to take on those Hessian professional soldiers. You could follow them by the blood and the snow. That's after they crossed an icy Delaware River in a snowstorm. But then they win the battle. They capture 600 of the Hessian soldiers. Washington's troops swell to 15,000 in the next 2 weeks. It's the greatest military comeback in history. And it was because they were willing to say, I'm not going to look at the odds. I'm not going to look at the overwhelming difficulty of the task. But I'm going to do what's right because it's the right thing to do no matter what it costs me. Because I'm not a summer soldier. I'm not a sunshine patriot. I'm a winter soldier. If we're going to win this war, this culture war for the heart and soul of America, if we're going to push back the federal government and put them back in their box, and I'm not saying that having a federal government is wrong or evil, or that government is bad. Government's a tool. It's a God-created institution. And when it's in its lane, it's a blessing to all of us. When it's outside of its lane, it's a curse, and it hurts. So we're not anti-government here. We're pro-constitutional government. We just want to get them back in their lane. That's what we're headed for. And if we're going to do that, it's going to take some winter soldiers. Now, I know you're sweating right now, and you're thinking, Rick, winter would be nice. I would love a little bit of winter air. Next generation. This is the hour. that you stand guard at the Watchtower of Freedom. This is the moment in time where we get to write our chapter in history. And the question is, will history say of our generation that on our watch, when our nation was literally teetering between liberty and tyranny, will they say on our watch that we gave up, that we became summer soldiers, and we sat down, that we stepped back and we let the left have our country, that the torch of freedom was only dimly lit, or God forbid extinguished? I agree. No, that's not going to be the chapter. I think based on what I see out here today, based on what I get to see all across the country, I know in my knower, as my pastor growing up used to say, I know in my knower that the chapter history is going to write on us. They're going to say that when it was our turn, when it was our watch, the torch of freedom once again burned even brighter than it ever had before. God bless you. Thanks for being here. Let's get this thing across the finish line in North Carolina. Sure. All right, one more time for Rick Green. That was great. By the way, public service announcement, since he brought up the whole gender issue. How many of you are fans of the 4-H Club? Raise your hand if you know anything about 4-H Club, sports 4-H Club. A week ago, a father here in the Raleigh area called the 4-H Club because his daughter is going to one of their summer camps. And he just happened to ask, by the way, how do you decide who goes in what cabin? And the lady in the 4-H office at NC State, right down the street from here, said, we allow the kids to tell us which gender they're identifying with. So at a 4-H summer camp, you could have a gender dysphoric, confused 13-year-old boy in the locker room, the bathroom, and the bedroom with an 11-year-old girl. And that's at the 4-H Club. So here's my challenge to you. If you're a parent, raise your hand. If you're a grandparent, raise your hand. You make the same phone call to every summer camp that your child or grandchild is involved in this summer, and you ask that question. It's the same thing Mark is doing with the Convention of States. Ronald Reagan said you make them see the light, that's education, or you make them feel the heat, that's activation, engagement. So if you have a child, son or daughter, or a grandson or a granddaughter going to summer camp, if you say you love them, make that phone call. Okay, Mark, you ready? Might be off. So we're going to do a raffle, right? That what we're doing right now? Okay, so this is because you guys have been willing to be out here in this blazing heat. And by the way, that means something to the folks in the building. They know what's hot out here. They see you sitting out here today. So we're going to give away some good swag here. And the first one is for Clifford Lee. Clifford, you out here somewhere? Where's Cliff? There we go. There's Cliff. Come on up. Get your mug. All right. Who's next? All right. I need to talk to Joy because somebody that already won, their name's in my pocket. Sorry, Deborah. You're out. You won already. Next. All right. What do we got next here? All right. Next we've got Debbie Borlock. Debbie, where are you? Debbie Borlock. Going once. You got to be here to claim your prize. All right. Next is Bill Gunther. Bill? There we go. There's Bill. Smart man in the white brimmed hat. Staying out of the sun. I like that. All right. Next, we've got Alex Didula. Alex? In the back. Going once, going twice. Alex? All right. Okay, one more. What we got? How about Brian Rapp? Brian? Oh, look, I hope you got more in your pocket here. All right. All right, yeah. Oh, look, it's me. No, I'm just kidding. Wait, Brian, there's Brian. There we go. We were just a little slow to spot you, Brian.
But he's got a good t-shirt on. Let's go, Brandon, right? Yep, grab your mic there. Yep. Next is Ben Moss. Ben Moss. Nope. All right, one more. Becky Lou Hobbs. Oh, that's your sister. You can claim for yourself. Yeah, we're good with that. She's running for school board. That's pretty good, right? There we go. Okay. All right. So, look, it's getting late. It's hot. I know you guys are cooking out there. You guys get to hear from me a whole lot. So I'm going to keep my remarks really short because the man of the hour, obviously, Colonel Alan West, is who we all want to hear from, right? That's who I want to hear from anyway. I get to hear myself plenty. So there's just one thing I want to say to you guys that I think is really important. You know, the founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, right? You guys have heard that? Lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, right? It's almost cliche. We've heard it so much. You can repeat it. Probably your young kids can repeat lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. Every politician in the building knows that phrase. But I think there's something important that we don't pay attention to when we talk lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. And the question is, what were they pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to? Was it to the flag? It wasn't. To the nascent country? No. To the military, to the Continental Army? No. To George Washington? No. To all the ideals that the country, the new country, stood for? The answer is no. They weren't pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to anything nebulous like that. Not just to an idea, not just to a flag, not to a military exercise, not to an army. They were pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to each other. And I think this is something really important. Why were they doing that? They were doing that because they knew exactly what they were facing. What were they facing? They were facing the greatest military force ever assembled in human history. They were going to war. And when they signed that great document, the Declaration of Independence, they knew what that meant. It was bringing war to them. And they knew that their farms would be burned and their businesses destroyed and their families torn apart. They knew this was coming. And they knew that in order to be able to stand, they had to stand together. Franklin famously said, "We have to hang together, surely we shall hang separately." And the founders understood this and they knew what they were facing. And I would say to you today that we, in the United States of America, who believe in the ideals of the flag, who believe in our Constitution, who believe in the Declaration of Independence, we are facing a war. Do you agree with that? So what are we going to do? We're going to fight, but we're going to turn to each other. And when we turn to each other, what I hope, what I pray for you, is that you will pledge your life and your fortune and your sacred honor to each other. Every morning when I wake up, and I do it every morning and every night before I go to bed, and I look in that mirror and I think, I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. And when I do that, what I think of is you. And I don't mean you generally. I mean you specifically. You and a lot of you out there who have had the chance to meet and shake your hands and look in your eyes and hear your story and know your heart. And I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to you. And I know a lot of you feel the same way. A lot of you say when I travel and I get to talk to you that you pray for me and my wife and my family. That has more meaning than I can possibly explain when you do that. And so this is my pledge to you today, that I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to you. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that if you need us, if you need the organization, if you get attacked, if you get slandered, if you get shamed, that we will try to the best of our ability to do something to help. That you are not alone. You will never be alone in the fight. If you're willing to take a stand, if you're willing to put on that COS pin, if you're willing to go and lobby, if you're willing to say something to your friends and your neighbors and your family and your employers and your churches, you are not alone. And we will do anything we can to help you and support you and elevate you and protect you. I'll be honest with you, we can't always do it. Sometimes we don't have the power to do it. We don't have the resources to do it. Sometimes we just lose a fight now and then. But we do, and I do personally, pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to you. And I hope that when you leave here today, before you leave here, that you do that to each other. I hope that when you get home, you think about that seriously and then you ask yourself, am I really in? Have I really pledged my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor? Am I too busy? Am I too broke? Am I too occupied with other things to actually be in the fight, or am I actually willing to do something? So if you're here today, you come out to do something, I hope you sign up to be a volunteer, to be engaged, to be part of the team. We're going to get it done this year in North Carolina. Am I right? So now I get to do something that's one of the greatest honors I get to do, which is to introduce a friend. You know, we all know who Colonel Allen West is. We all know the Lieutenant Colonel from Fox News. We know him from all his appearances all over the country. We know him and love him for what he's done in the great state of Texas, his adopted home state. We know that he ran for governor. We wish he would have won. He'd have been a much better governor. We'd have had a better governor. But we know him as a warrior. We know him as a man who is true to principle. We know him as a rock star. I travel around the country. I know he hates when I say this stuff, so I know he's cringing back here. But he's a rock star. You walk through an airport with Alan, and everybody wants his autograph, right? And you go, and it doesn't matter. It's not about party. It's not about race. It's not about anything. People know him, and he's very attractive because he's a man of principle. I know an Alan that most of you guys don't get to see, because I've done events with him all around the country. And you never know when you meet somebody who's famous, that's known, they're in the media, they're in the news, everybody knows their name, everybody knows their face. For a lot of people, that does something to their head. And they feel that way about themselves. I'm important. People need to treat me special. So I'm going to tell you what it's like traveling with Alan West. We get to events early, and Alan is there like, what can I do to help? Can I set up chairs? Can I move tables? Is there anything I can do? And I'm used to when you have a keynote speaker, usually the keynote speaker blows in, and then as soon as their speech is over, they blow out and they're gone. Usually they have an entourage with them, kind of keeping people away. They shuffle them and shuffle in and out. And here's the thing about Alan, and the reason I love him so much as a man, as a friend, because at the very end of the event, when there's just a few organizers left, he's there putting away chairs or pushing a broom or doing whatever needs to be done. That's an American hero. So it is an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to introduce you to a good man and a great man, my friend Alan West. Oh, wow, thank you. How's everyone doing? Hey, you know what's real funny? Some of y'all came here like in the beginning of the today, and y'all were like white. Now y'all gonna be leaving darker than me. So I won't belabor the point. I want to get to what is the issue of this moment, and it's a great day for me to be back here in North Carolina. I spent 5 years. I know I'm incompetent. I'm sorry, sir. My apologies. I just got told I made a terrible mistake. I didn't mic you up. There you go. Now they can hear you online.
You know, once upon a time, I was somebody and I could make him do push-ups. I can't make him do anything now.
The question is, could I do push-ups?
Yeah, I think you could. God bless.
But I spent 5 years of my military career just right down the road in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and also they shipped me over to the Marines for another 3 years. Yeah, okay. Paid political announcement from Uncle Sam's Misguided Children. But anyhow, I got a chance to speak on there. And if you ask my daughters today what was their favorite duty station, they would say North Carolina. So it's an honor to be here in the Tar Heel State with each and every one of you. It's an honor to be back here with Convention of States, North Carolina. The last time I was here on this green, we were working on the North Carolina House. We got it through the North Carolina House, and now it's time to get it through the North Carolina Senate. And that's why we're going to make it happen. That's why we're going to get it done. The first thing I want you to understand.
Why are we here? You know, I tell people this is my American Express credit card. Remember they say in American Express, you don't leave home without it? It's the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. And on 31 July, I took an oath to this incredible document. So why are we here today is real simple. Article 5, United States Constitution. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states. And if you want to know math, that's 34. shall call the convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of several states, that's 38, or by the conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. That's why you're here. Article 5 of the Constitution. Now, Mark has a great little thing here that he's handing out to folks. It's called Supporters of the Convention of States. I'm honored to be one of those. But on the other side, it says opponents of Convention of States. Hillary Clinton, Howard Dean, George Soros, La Raza, MoveOn.org, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood founded by a white supremacist and a racist by the name of Margaret Sanger. Planned Parenthood that has 79% of their clinics in black communities. Planned Parenthood that's responsible for having 20 million murders of unborn black babies in the womb. They're against Convention of States. If you want to side with a white supremacist organization, then stand against Convention of States. That's what you need to be telling those folks that are over there in that building. And let me tell you something. They're up there in those windows. They're watching. And they need to know that they work for you. And you don't work for them. And you're sitting out here in this hot North Carolina sun, sending them a message. A message that says that this Constitution of the United States of America, in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, it lists the 18 things, just 18 things, that are the jurisdiction, duties, and responsibilities of the federal government. And the Founding Fathers, in that final amendment of our Bill of Rights, in the 10th Amendment, it said all of those powers not reserved to the federal government are not guaranteed to the federal government, are reserved to the states and to the people. And they gave us Article 5 as a tool, as a means of making sure that we kept the federal government in that box. Because the Constitution of the United States of America is a restricted document on the powers of the federal government. But yet, when we have a person that is the president of the Oval Office, sorry, that's just me, and he comes out and continually says that no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. Every single person here, soldier, sailor, airman, marine, coast guard, that took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, that's a slap in our face. For him to stand up and say that our First Amendment, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, Tenth, no amendment is absolute. So, hey, Joe, how about the 13th and 14th Amendments? You want me to go back and be a slave? How about the amendment that allows women to be able to go and vote? Should that be taken away from them? Our Second Amendment right, because our Founding Fathers understood what happened on April the 19th of 1775 was that the British were marching into the Concord, Massachusetts to destroy weapons and armaments factory because the Sons of Liberty was being supplied by. Those patriots came out on a little piece of green, not as big as this. And they took on the greatest power that the world knew at that time because they understood an armed individual is a citizen. A disarmed individual is a subject. You just heard earlier about what happened in Venezuela. So we have a president that says that no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. That's an impeachable offense. And that's why we have Article 5. So the states can get the federal government and these type of unconstitutional actions back into the box. When you have a person that I served with in Congress, Representative Cicilline from Rhode Island, who there in a hearing would say, I do not want to hear about your constitutional rights BS. That person should not be sitting there as a representative of the United States of America. because you're supposed to be there to support our Constitution, to uphold our Constitution. And if you believe that our constitutional rights are BS, you do not deserve the right and the privilege to be a member of the United States House of Representatives or the United States Senate. And so it is up to you in this moment in time to let your voices be heard to say that we the people. I saw someone had a t-shirt up there that said, "We the people are pissed." You doggone right we're pissed. Because every time I go to the gas pump, I'm pretty upset. When I go to the grocery store, I'm upset. When I look at what has happened in just 18 months, when inflation in the United States of America used to be 1.4%, now it's up to 8.2 to 8.3%. You look at the price of gas, you look at everything out there, you look at what's going on in mortgage. You cannot tell me that you can implement an ideological agenda to open up the borders of the United States of America. The founding fathers wrote in Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution that there are two things, the guarantee clause, that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the union. Number one, a Republican form of government. Not a Republican Party, a Republican form of government. What is a Republican form of government? America is a constitutional republic. And therefore, being a constitutional republic, number one, you're supposed to abide by and stand by the rule of law, which is the Constitution of the United States of America. Number two, the most preeminent and important person in the United States of America is the individual. Their rights, their freedoms, their liberty, their sovereignty. Every single person in the United States of America is sovereign because your rights come from a sovereign God. God with a big G, not government with a little g. And if you don't abide by that, you're in violation of the Constitution, you're in violation of the guarantee clause. And the second thing that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the union is protect us from invasion. Millions upon millions coming across the border to the United States of America. Who would have ever thought that we'd have a federal government that would be aiding and abetting a drug trafficking crisis? There are more Americans dying from fentanyl overdoses in the United States of America. The number one killer, 18 to 45. Last year, over 100,000. But you don't hear anyone talking about that. The human and sex trafficking crisis that we have. I live in Texas. Rick lives in Texas. Mark lives in Texas. Texas is the number one state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. Houston and Dallas are the top two cities in the United States of America for sex trafficking. See, the left, they went after President Trump over a stupid phone call. We need to go after them for undermining our constitutional republic, our individual sovereignty, and the sanctity of the longest running republic that the world has ever known. And that's what Article 5 gives you the ability to do. And I'm sick and tired of people making all of these excuses. This is going to be a runaway thing. Well, guess who came up with that propaganda nonsense? The same people that have told us of the condition of states. You know, I had someone recently say to me, I was out in Colorado, and Colonel, you support that commission of states thing? I said, absolutely I do. Why do you support it? It's in the Constitution. Well, that doesn't mean that we have to use it. Well, what country are you from? If it's in our Constitution, if it's in our rule of law, that's something that the founding fathers, with their incredible godly inspiration and their prescience, said that there will be a day when man will look after, and woman, look after their own interests, their self-interest, their special interests, their ideological agenda, because now we have the progressive socialist left that is elevating their ideological rights over our constitutional rights. And the founding fathers left us many tools. Article 5 is one of those. And here in North Carolina, we need to convince these senators to do the right thing. Either you stand with the people or you stand with these folks here. They're the opponents of the Convention of States. If you stand with the rule of law and the Constitution, you stand against it. It's just that cut and dry. And it is time that we understand that there's nothing hard out there. I served in the military for 22 years. Monday of this week, 78 years ago, let me tell you about something hard. The ramp went down on those Higgins boats on Omaha and Utah beaches. When the Rangers, they shot those catapults up there to scale the cliffs of Pont du Hoc. When the night prior, members of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Division jumped in behind enemy lines. That's hard. But to find the courage to stand up for what this document, that's not hard. It's just a matter of, do you believe in this nation or do you not? Do you believe in understanding what federalism is? Do you believe in understanding that the true power of the United States of America is not up in Washington, D.C. with the federal government? It's here at the state level. It's here with each and every one of you that are sitting out here getting a real good tan. So I'm telling you, Rick just talked about it. We ain't got time for summer soldiers. We ain't got time for sunshine patriots. We don't have time for people to give a lot of lip service. Now is the time for you to step into this gap. One of the great stories of ancient military history that I love to share comes from 480 BC. It was the Battle of Thermopylae. When Xerxes, the king of Persia, had his million-man enslaved army, and he decided to attack and subjugate the Hellespont, which is Greece, because they believed in this thing about individual freedom and liberty. They believed in this new process of representative democracy. Xerxes did not want to have any of that. And the word came out that Xerxes was marching toward Greece. And all of the city-states decided they would run away, except for one. When it came to the Spartan warrior king Leonidas, he went to the Spartan ephors, the counselors that oversaw the city-state of Sparta, and he asked for the entire Spartan army to go and stand in the gap. But they refused because of a religious festival that was coming up, and he would violate that religious festival. Leonidas didn't say it's too hard. Leonidas didn't say he's going to quit. Leonidas said, okay, I'm just going to take my personal guard of 300. As I look out here today, we got 300. And on the first day of that battle, when Xerxes and the Persians told the Spartans in the gap at Thermopylae to lay down their weapons and surrender to subjugate, they didn't understand that the Spartans lived by a special code, the code of Lycurgus. There was no surrender, no retreat. And so their reply on that day, 2 words in Greek. 2 words you'll find right there on my forearm, which would be my sword arm. Molon lave. Come, take. The interesting thing about these 2 words are that on October the 2nd, 1835, when the Mexican cavalry showed up at a little town called Gonzales, Texas, because they wanted a cannon back, some Texians stood there on another little piece of green, and they said the English words that translate to Molon lave. They said, come and take it. This is your moment to stand in the gap. This is your moment to stand against tyranny. This is your moment to stand against totalitarianism. This is your moment to make sure that the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known will be passed on to subsequent generations. Rick talked about it. The increased devotion that you have to give to those who made the last full measure of devotion. Those were part of the words of the Gettysburg Address. Why? So that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. That's your challenge. Your legacy is not about what type of car you have. It's not about what type of house you have or how big it is. It's not about your bank account. It's not about your 401k, which is really sucking right now thanks to Joe Biden. But it's not about any of the personal, finite possessions that you have. Your legacy is whether or not 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, your generations after you, your descendants will be able to come on this incredible green and remember what you did today, standing in the gap for them so that we can make sure that the federal government stayed in the box that they're supposed to be in. So I'm going to ask y'all to stand up. Everybody within my voice, stand up. Put your heels together in the position of attention. I want you to raise your right hand. I want you to repeat these words. I, state your full name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any purpose of evasion or mental reservation. So help me God. The article 5 of the Constitution of the United States of America is now something you said that you will support and defend. Now go out and do it. Now everybody, turn and face that building right there. And on the count of 3, I want you to shout out COS. 1, 2, 3. COS! One more time. 1, 2, 3. COS! One more time. 1, 2, 3. God bless you. Let's make North Carolina 20th state for the convention of states. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that one. Okay, here's one for you and here's one for me. I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do right now. Well, I will do that. I'm very good at that. Did you know that? So we are going to close things out a little early because it is just pretty long. As you see, good old North Carolina. We are so grateful that you all came. We need Christy Noble. You come up here, please. He's going to say something to you because he'll say it better than me.
All right. Remember, you just said something in the building behind you. I got a text
from one of our state senators, said they're watching us through the glass. The fact that you're here matters. The fact that you're here and it's hot as blazes out matters. But let me help you focus yourselves a little bit, okay? I love to name names. God is my defender, so I don't really worry about mankind. Get your phone out or something to write on or write it on your hand. I'm going to give you 4 names. These are the 4 names
that are holding up this initiative in the North Carolina State Senate. Okay? These are the names you need to write down. Now you got Bill Rabin as the head of the committee. Bill Rabin. Hi, Bill. Kathy Harrington. These are not other people, okay? I'm going to clear your top in a second. So Bill Rabin, Kathy Harrington. Hey, Kathy. Tom McGinnis. Tom McGinnis. Hey, Tom. And here's the trick. Unlike Washington, D.C., we actually know who's pulling the strings. And the person pulling the strings is named Phil Berger. Because Phil Berger is the head of the Senate, said, hey, Paul, this has to happen. That's what happens. It happens. I don't need Common Core math to figure out what happens. I don't have time for Common Core math. But if Phil Berger told Bill Rabin, get out of committee, let's make these people vote, it would happen. So don't waste your time. Be sharp and be focused on those names I just gave you. Those are the fingers in the dike holding back the jam of our freedom. Make sure you're focused on them. Got it? Hey, one quick thing I want to say about that again. Remember, when you talk to those folks, even folks who are opposed, we are kind and we are polite and we're nice because that's how we deal with stuff. Because you're not going to get anything by being mean to people. Also, want to say what we're hearing in the legislature, and this is important. Look, I want to be fair. Phil Berger has voted for us in the past, right? But he is the guy that holds the keys right now. And what we hear in the legislature is very frustrating. When I go in the building, when Joy's in the building, what we hear is, oh, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, it's not my fault, it's them who doesn't want it. What we hear from members is, hey, we're all in favor, and then what we hear from leadership is, oh, yeah, members who aren't in favor. So somebody's not being honest with us, and it is the honest truth. When Phil Berger says this thing's going to happen, and he says to Rabin it needs to come out of committee, it's going to come out of committee. I want to say one last thing. It goes to the floor, and they have to vote. And they don't want to vote sometimes because they don't want us to know
what they're doing. They would rather there be this mystery, right? What do we want? We want them to vote. We want their name on the record, right? And so they're going to put their name on the record, and you guys are going to make them put their name on the record. So let's go out and get it done. Make sure you go into the building before you leave and talk to these people, and I'll let Joey close it out.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to give you 4 more names, and I always forget one of them. I have a terrible memory, folks. It's called poor working memory, and it's bad. In any event, the no, not nevers, we may never change. Okay, that's Harrington, McGinnis, and Raven. Raven can get out of the committee without voting yes for it. They all 3 voted no in 2017. Okay, the only ones that voted no in 2017. People Sawyer won't commit. And every time we say, well, let's help you understand that this isn't going to happen. So we address one of her objections. We play whack-a-mole because she gives us another one. Lisa Barnes, we can't figure out where she stands because she won't take an appointment with anybody in her district to talk about COS. She knows all that she needs to know. Okay, but she won't tell us she's going to vote yes. Jim Perry voted for us in 2017, but for some reason it's awfully right now. And we're having a lot of trouble getting an appointment with Brett Jackson, so we don't know where he stands. So if they represent you, please reach out to them. Okay, that would be Brent Jackson, Jim Perry, Vicky Sawyer, and Lisa Barnes. Okay. Last thing I want to say is we have got various different people who have asked to be on our stage today, and this is a COS event, so we didn't want to open the floor to that. Well, it's hot, y'all got to go home. I've said at the beginning of this that my prayer is that you're having come to this and heard these amazing speakers is going to cause you to take actions you might not take otherwise. Okay, there are people, grassroots all over the state. Some of you actually work with some of them, not necessarily with us. Okay, we in COS can need your help. You can go to conventionofstates.com. You can go to the Take Action tab. You can figure out ways that you can get involved, and we got all kinds of ways you can get involved. There are people working on election integrity. If you are concerned about that, and that is a place you want to spend your time, Karen Raines is here somewhere, and she's right there. There's actually an election attendance summit in Raleigh this weekend. It's only $30, I think, or $50. Only $30. We encourage you to go to that. Irma Luco is with Vamos International. They are a Vamos Corporation. They are a group operation. Excuse me, Vamos Operation. They're an organization working to organize the conservative Hispanic community. Because we don't need the conservative by nature, okay? And they need help. He says you don't need to speak English, speak Spanish. He just needs help. So he's got a place where you can sign up to help him. And then my last one is the Truckers for Freedom. I don't know where he is. Let's see. NCStandForFreedom.com. I think I got that right. Right here. This young man would love your help as well. Okay. So again, I could be really selfish and say, hey, we need you in COS. Okay. But that might not be your passion in every day. You might really have a passion for some of these other things. And these are important to Save Our Republic. So again, thank you. We've got a gentleman that wants to lead us in one final song, not on the agenda, but come on up, Carl. And you'll notice when you're leaving, you all can hang and watch a little bit of it. We've got a video, again, put together our amazing videographer back here, Jesse, of different people speaking in front of Senate or House committees across the country for you to kind of lead it to. So you can take a listen to that when we're done. Go ahead, Carl.
Yes. If I could have about 1 minute just to mention a couple of things, and then while I'm rambling for a second, I'd like for you to break out your phone if you can see the screen in this light. Look up the national anthem, if you will, please. I mean, of course you know it, right? Do you know the last verse? Okay. Ronald Reagan said that our anthem is the one anthem in the world that poses a question. Will that flag still wave? Is it still waving? In the last stanza, we pledge to one another that on our watch, yes, it will. Okay. So if you would do everyone a favor and try to drown me out. Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation, blessed with victory and peace. May the heaven rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must when our cause it is just. And this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Coah, and thank you all for coming. I'm so it was so good that we will try to do this again next time. We're gonna do it every year because we gotta keep it from we gotta do it every year. Let me be clear. We want to pass this year, but we gotta keep it alive. Until the convention occurs.
Six would have you believe that this is going to be an exercise in secrecy, that we have no idea where this would go. Let's take him at his word and just concede that it rolls out the way that he's suggesting it would. Not a thing in this convention would pass were it not brought back to the states where there is no secrecy. Everything that we do is televised. Everything that we do is recorded. 3/4 of the states would have to ratify anything that came out of this convention. My friend from the 67th made a comment that every amendment proposed by this application should be done now with a normal way. Who in this body suggests that the normal way is going to happen? Who thinks that the federal government, the Congress, is going to police itself? I was born in 1965, and at that time we had roughly $300 billion in national debt. It's hard for me to be optimistic that my 17-year-old daughter will ever grow up in a country where we can proclaim that we're a strong, safe country. Because as it was mentioned by one of the delegates, almost 10% of what we spend now as taxpayers goes just to service the national debt. What happens when it becomes 20 or 30? I'm fired up. It terrifies me that we're on this path. I cannot predict what would happen in an Article 5 convention. And I know that folks that have looked to me as a representative of or been called